Mr. President, esteemed colleagues, where there's will, there's a way. This 400-year-old proverb applies to everyone, bar none. Since getting the required majority signatures for this representation to be able to report out on the floor your Blue Ribbon Committee's partial committee report on the flood control saga seemed doomed from the time we first routed the same last February 11, 2026. I am compelled to stand before you on a matter of personal and collective privilege, and for good reasons. As we speak, the country's heat index is at its peak, but the Filipinos' anger burns hotter. Gaano man katindi ang sikat ng araw, hindi nito matatabunan ang galit ng ating mga kababayan na nalulunod pa rin sa gitna ng kapabayaan at kasakiman sa salapi ng ilang tiwaling opisyal ng gobyerno. 10 ng kanilang mga kasapakat na kontratista dulot ng flood control scam. Sa Barangay Mercado, sa bayan ng Hagonoy, Bulacan, ang baha ay bahagi na ng buhay. Wala nang ginawa ang mga estudyanteng pumapasok sa eskwela, mga namamalakayang pumapalaot at manggagawang araw-araw kumakayod, kundi lumusong at maabala sa hindi masawatang baha. Sabi nga ng isang residente doon, kung pinag-aralan lamang ang pinaggagawa nila, hindi kami magdurusa tulad nito. Sawang-sawa na kami. Habang sila ay nakahiga sa kama, kami ay nakahiga sa tubig baha. Sa kasamaang palad, magpapatuloy pa rin ang siklo ng paglilimas, paglusong, at pagbubuwis ng buhay at kabuhayan ng mga taga-Barangay Mercado tuwing sasapit ang tag-ulan. Mr. President, Filipino families in more than 30 provinces with high and medium-high exposure to flooding across the country are sure to be flooded in months to come, at risk of losing their livelihoods and lives. Our country stands to lose about $89 billion between 2022 and 2050 due to floods and tropical storms. Again, as we speak, the Philippines remains at the top of the World Risk Index 2025 among 193 countries worldwide as the most disaster-prone country due to high exposure to floods, typhoons, and other natural hazards. These are only some of the reasons why I must speak today. Mr. President, while the partial committee report circulated to the committee members nearly 3 months ago remains pending for sponsorship, I cannot ignore the public's urgent demand for transparency regarding the flood control scandal. Therefore, as chairman of the Committee on Accountability and Public Officers and Investigations, I rise today to deliver the chairman's progress report. This progress report contains the findings of the partial report, which is grounded but not limited to the 7 exhaustive public hearings in aid of legislation conducted by your committee on what stands as the largest corruption scandal in Philippine history. This also touches on the proceedings of the 8th and latest hearing and on other key matters of urgent concern to the succeeding public inquiries. Again, for the record, the partial committee report was circulated on February 11, 2026 to the members of this committee for thorough study and consideration. As provided in our rules, Section 1, Article 5, Blue Ribbon Committee Rules, committee reports must be signed by a majority of the committee's members before they can be filed with the Bills and Index Division of the Senate. Given the scale of the investigation and the details of the discussion, which, as you all know, reached more than 400 pages, sans the annexes, each member has been afforded more than sufficient time to examine and scrutinize the full substance of the report. Everyone is given a full opportunity to review and propose revisions, modifications, deletions, and corrections. In line with Senate practice, we have provided an advanced portable document format or PDF copy to every office to allow our members to sufficient time for review. Common sense lang sa isa nating kasamahan na pilit naghahanap ng original signed copy at ginawa pang dahilan sa hindi niya pagpirma. It should be understood that the digital version serves as the formal notification of the report's contents, Mr. President. To date, almost 3 months have passed. Only 7, including the President, Chairperson, and the Senate President, have affixed our signatures to this draft. I therefore thank our colleagues, Senator Erwin Tulfo, our Vice Chairman, Senator Risa Ontiveros, Senator Bam Aquino, Senator Kiko Pangilinan, and the latest, Senator Rafi Tulfo, who have signed the partial report. And while I disagree with those who have not, let me state for the record, Mr. President, that I respect their decision, even as I understand whatever reasons they have for not signing. Bottom line, it is their right as senators of the Republic. Nonetheless, it bears heavy emphasis. Most of the findings of the partial committee report are no longer new, and first view, they have already been validated, if not overtaken, by current events. In fact, the report may be pending, or while the report may be pending, the wheels of justice have already begun to grind. And I take pride in saying, in line with the direction of our report. Mr. President, the Blue Ribbon Committee is a heavy cross to bear, where every move is scrutinized and every intention is questioned. But we shoulder on and forge ahead. In my more than 50 years of public service, I cannot recall experiencing a situation where I am in now, a zero-sum outcome, whichever path I trek in the crafting of the partial committee report. Never mind the trolls and critics who have been operating like clockwork. To them I say, I have built my career and my reputation over decades on a simple principle, that noise never overpowers duty, and intimidation never silences me. Set aside, if they must, the fact that I have spent my entire public service career refusing and resisting all forms of corruption, from rejecting bribes from illegal gambling operations and other unlawful activities during my law enforcement years, let alone the pork barrel system which plundered our nation and was later declared by the highest court as unconstitutional, not to mention my consistent rejection of lobby monies in as many instances related to certain pieces of legislation. Disregard, if they can, the decades I have spent in the trenches as a budget watchdog and a relentless buster of abuse of power. If my track record of integrity is to be ignored today, then let the evidence speak where my history is silenced by the critics and the trolls. In the course of drafting this report, my guidance to my staff was unequivocal, that we adopt a single standard in laying down the committee's findings. We go where the evidence leads us. Before we dive into the findings, let us be very clear in plain, simple terms. We are not here to indict, much less convict, or hand down a final judgment. Hindi po ito isang hatol. Rather, we're establishing a standard of clear indicia, as lawyers call it, to assist in whatever way we can the proper authorities who shall independently evaluate these findings, determine probable cause, and take the necessary legal actions. Halimbawa, sa kaso ng ating kasamahan na Senator Jingo Estrada, ay mayroong bagong development na naganap sa pamamagitan ng LBRMO na nagpahayag na hindi si Senator Jinggoy ang proponent base sa record ng mga proyektong una nang naiugnay sa kanya. Nonetheless, Mr. President, let me be uncompromising. In this long course of inquiry, the Filipino taxpayers are the complainant. Our duty to them is to answer three fundamental questions. Number one, where did the money go? Two, how was this corruption executed? And three, how do we fix the system so it never happens again? Mr. President, this all seems like deja vu. We have seen this before. The history of corruption in the Philippines reflects a cyclical process. It does not disappear when exposed. It adapts and mutates to survive. The flood control crisis is the reincarnation of the 2013 Priority Development Assistance Fund, or PDAF scam, but in a bolder scheme. It serves as a scathing indictment of the failure of our institutions to deter corrupt machinations. The enterprise remains unchanged in essence, similarly orchestrated by a cabal of officials led by legislators and their co-conspirators within the government and in the private sector, only with a diversified format and modus of thievery, timing, and language. Like floodwaters, these activities seep into institutions and areas of least resistance, flowing into and exploiting new channels where illicit rewards abound and oversight is weakest. Mula sa masilimuot na investigasyon, ilalatag ko ang synthesis ng findings ng komite sa 5 bahagi. Una, napatunayan sa mga pagdinig na ang problema sa baha ay hindi nag-ugat sa kakulangan ng pondo. Instead, the scale of funding coupled with weak internal controls and criminally complicit oversight made the sector an attractive target for systematic plunder of the public treasury, effectively leaving our citizens exposed to a deluge of misery. Ito ang nilalaman ng Part 1 ng ating findings. Second, the anatomy of this flood control anomaly is inherently parasitic, characterized by a network of actors spanning the highest levels of authority. Hence, Part 2 of the findings clearly laid out how the anatomy works. From utilizing an institutionalized workflow deeply entrenched within the bureaucracy, employing mechanisms so brazen and gross that they either compromise, recruit, and/or bypass oversight. Third, ang flood control mess ay representasyon ng sukdulan at nakakarimarim na evolution of the pork barrel system. In this scheme, corruption takes different forms and names, from congressional slabs of pork, now euphemistically rebranded as allocables, leadership funds, and insertions, extending their reach even to the unprogrammed appropriations under the General Appropriations Act. Part 3 details the scheme's stark similarities to that of the pork barrel scam from language to operations. Fourth, the case of Bulacan First District Engineering Office serves as a microcosm of the systemic rot. It provides a blueprint of how flood control funds are diverted, revealing the interconnected systems that facilitate the corruption. Fifth and finally, the dire consequences of this institutionalized plunder are not merely financial. They are felt in the structural erosion of our democratic institutions, the profound disenfranchisement of the Filipino people, and the tearing of the moral fiber of the country. Now we ask, where did the money go? Evidence on record shows how the flood control corruption scandal exposed a systemic, coordinated, multi-actor process. Isang malawakang sabwatan na ginawang gatasan ang mga proyekto para sa flood control. Ang pattern ng korupsyon ay systemic at parasitic, magkakaugnay mula sa mga aktor, mekanismo, at workflow. Who are the actors? In the course of the hearings, we have identified key actors who were implicated in the flood control anomalies and classified them into 8 groups. Ang partisipasyon ng mga aktor na ito ay hindi limitado sa isang grupo lamang. Sila ay maaring gumalaw sa iba't ibang kapasidad, sabay-sabay o nagpapalit-palit, depende sa pangailangan ng kanilang operasyon. Nariyan ang mga proponents, mga opisyal ng gobyerno na kinikilalang quote-unquote may-ari ng proyekto at tumatanggap ng average na 15 to 30% na kickback. Mga bagmen or intermediaries, sinasabing authorized representatives and emissaries of the proponents, DPWH facilitators and coordinators, mga senior level officials who coordinated with proponents, facilitated the respective project proposals, accepted their demand for commitments and other activities related to the flood control anomaly process. DPWH group, syndicate groups implementing the project tulad ng Bulacan 1st District Engineering Office at Oriental Mindoro District Engineering Office. Tinuturing ding active actors ang mga contractors. Sila ang namumudmod ng commitments o suhol sa mga proponents at iba't ibang grupo na kasabwat sa anomalya. Madalas, sila ay nagbibigay din ng advances bago pa man ma-award ang project. Hindi nga ba namangha tayong lahat, Mr. President, nang matuklasan natin sa isang pagdinig ang pahayag ni Sally Santos ng Sims Construction na magkasunod siyang nag-withdraw noong Marso at Abril 2025 sa isang land bank branch sa Bulacan ng tig 457 million pesos na cash na kanyang binigay kay Bryce Hernandez at mga kasabwat nito sa First Bulacan District Engineering Office. Ang iba pang mga aktor ay kabilang sa executive branch, bankers at constitutional oversight group. These actors thrive in the vulnerability of our systems and institutions. Now, how was this corruption executed? Himay-himayin natin ang mga teknikal na paraan kung paano ninakaw ang pera ng bayan. These are specific mechanisms of corruption. Ang mga makinaryang ginamit para pabilisin ang pagnanakaw at pahinain ang ating sistema. Nariyan ang ugat ng problema, ang proponent system. Meron pang mandatory fixed percentage, commissions, kickbacks paid in cash, rigged bidding and favored suppliers at in-house contracting. Ilan lamang ito sa mga sistema ng flood control scam. This corrupt system exploited the very foundations of our fiscal governance through its institutionalized workflow, mula sa budget formulation at authorization, kung saan sinisimulan ang pagmamanipula, procurement and implementation, kung saan ang mga kontrata ay binibigay sa mga kasabwat na nakawan, hanggang sa oversight phase na kung saan nagmimistulang pikit mata sa katiwalian ang mga opisyal ng gobyerno na dapat ay sumusubaybay at nagmomonitor sa mga proyekto. This scheme exploited systemic and institutional weaknesses in budget formulation, authorization, implementation, and oversight. Testimonies and documents reveal that a wide range of public officials, from legislators to frontline officials, as well as private sector co-conspirators, were complicit in various ways, either by approving dubious projects, signing off on ghost projects, or failing to enforce procurement and performance standards and accountability safeguards. Next, Mr. President, how do we fix the system so it never happens again? Ang pinakamahalagang bahagi ng report ng komite ay ang mga reforma sa sistema, batas at proseso sa pamamagitan ng legislative proposals. We focus on two pillars. First, budget-related proposals. Tanggalin ang anumang uri ng allocables and leadership funds na pinauso ng DPWH upang mapaghati-hatian ang pondo. This is a pork barrel incarnate, and it clouds our fiscal transparency. We also suggest itemizing unprogrammed appropriations, strict compliance with the release of unprogrammed funds, and public disclosure of excess revenue certifications for the use and release of unprogrammed appropriations. Given the massive scale of controversies, particularly under the 2024 appropriations, we may also consider abolishing the unprogrammed funds altogether. We are also calling for the vertical and horizontal convergence of infrastructure planning across government agencies, both at the national and local levels, and crucially, enhanced public participation and legislative transparency. Second, our accountability and anti-corruption proposals. Primary to this is the amendment of Republic Act number 6770, or the Ombudsman Act of 1989, which includes A, creation of an anti-corruption law enforcement service in the Office of the Ombudsman and providing incentives and protection to whistleblowers. B, expanding the authority of the Ombudsman to deputize private lawyers as special investigators and prosecutors. And C, fiscal autonomy laws for the Office of the Ombudsman and the Commission on Audit. This is in line with the precedent of giving fiscal autonomy to the Supreme Court as provided under Republic Act 12233 or the Judiciary Fiscal Autonomy Act. We won't allow